In the last movie, we learned how to reuse HTML for the layout of each of our Vue templates. In this movie, we will learn about partial templates, also called partials for short, which allow us to create reusable HTML fragments and to not repeat ourselves as much as possible. Let's begin by taking a look at the new and edit templates we created in the last chapter. So you'll want to open up Views, Subjects, New, and Views, Subjects, Edit. And you'll notice that a lot of the template is different, but this table here, all the form fields, are identical between the two. We repeated ourselves between New and Edit when it came to our form fields. If we change a field on our form, then we have to make sure that we make the change in both places to keep them in sync. This is exactly what writing dry code is supposed to prevent. The solution is to put this code in a separate template, called a partial template, and then tell each of these pages to use the partial. Let's create a new file for our partial. So the easiest way to do that is to click on Subjects while you hold down Control and then choose New File. You can also choose New File from the top menu up here. The only real difference is that this is going to prompt us to save it into the Subjects folder already. We're not going to have to hunt for it. Now we're going to name this file form.html.erb. But because it's a partial, partials are always named with an underscore at the start. That's how you can tell right away that it's not intended to be a full template, because it has that underscore. So let's save our file. You'll see that it appears now here in my subjects directory. And let's put our form in there. So let's copy all of this table right here. And let's copy it over to our form. I can also unindent that a bit so that it comes back over. And now let's save that file. Now we have a partial template that's ready to be used by a full template. But before we do that, notice that the code in our partial depends upon having a value for the variable f. It won't work if we don't have this value for f set. We'll need to make sure we provide an object there that it can use. All right, let's switch back over to new. We can call a partial by using ERB tags and then using render, just like we saw from the controller. The controller we used render to render a full template. Inside the view, we can use it to render a partial. And of course, if we're rendering a partial, we want to tell it that we're doing that with partial, and then the partial as a hash, and then the name of the partial that we want to use. Now, when we use the name here, we do not include the underscore. It's assumed from the fact that we called it a partial. Rails knows to add the underscore in front of it. So that will load up our partial, but in order to make sure that the variable f has a value, we also need to include a hash of the local variables the partial may need. So we'll put a comma and then locals. So inside the hash, I'll put symbol f, and then for a value, I'm also going to put f. Now in this case, f is assigned to f, but it doesn't have to be. The key here is the variable name that the partial is going to be using. That's f. The value is the value for that variable. In this case, it's the object that was already assigned to the block variable f. So what we have here is the partial template local variable f is going to need to be equal to the full template's form variable f. If our partial had called this variable foo, then over here we would need to assign foo is going to be equal to f. So don't let the fact that it's f twice throw you. Okay, so now we have our render partial statement. Let's copy and paste that into our edit form as well. So we're going to take everything that was in that table, and we're going to replace it with our rendering of the partial form. Let's try that out. We'll launch the web server from the root of our Rails project, and then we'll open up Firefox. And now from the subject page, go to add new subject, and you'll see the form is there. Or if we go and we edit a subject, you'll still see that the form is there as well. It's exactly the same between the two. We've now created a reusable HTML fragment that our Vue templates can use. And this isn't exclusively for forms. You can use it for any HTML fragment, whether it's a navigation item, a sidebar, or just a little bit of text that's going to appear on several different pages. And when we render a partial, Rails is going to assume that the partial is in the same directory as the template. If it's not, if we want to render a partial that's in a different directory, we just need to use the full path to it. So for example, here we would say subjects/form. So it would let it know that that's where it should look for it, is inside the subjects directory. Otherwise, if we don't specify it, it'll assume it's the same directory. Another common practice is to add a directory inside views that's called either application or shared, and use that for partials that are shared between templates in different controllers. Now on your own, try to create form partials for the pages and sections templates that we created earlier.